Well, thank you very much. I first want to say thank you to the ARCASIA organization to invite me. To me, it's a pleasure and an honor being for the first time in India and also in Asia. So, probably my name is Javier, and I am from the Laboratorio de Arquitectura. That's how I call my office, because I think that architecture is researching. It's a laboratory because I think that I used to do always what I don't know how to do. So I think that Paraguay, where I come from, probably is the most unknown country in this event. So there are a curious thing that probably you will like to know. This is the ARCASIA invitation, Happiness Through Architecture. And this is the first curious thing that I want to tell you. Paraguay is the happiest country in the world. So, and another thing is that Christopher Columbus wanted to come to India when he arrives to America. And that until Americo Vespuccio noticed that that was not India. But until that moment, the historic name of Paraguay was the giant province of India. But that's another story. Those are coincidences. And these are the native people from Paraguay. And Paraguay is also, they have also a particular condition that is the only country in Latin America that speaks officially two languages, Spanish and the native language that it calls Guarani. And in that language, Guarani is the name of the country and is the name of many places in South America, like Uruguay, Paraguay, Caribe, Cuba, Panama, and many others places. So Paraguay means water that goes to the sea. This is the map of rivers in South America. And this is where Paraguay is. So we are under Paraguay. We have no oil, so that's why we are a poor country now. But under our underground Paraguay, we have the Guarani aquifer, that is one of the most largest sweet water reserve in the world. So it's supposed that we are going to be rich in the future. So I'm not a specialist in sustainable architecture. I don't know why I'm here, but people says that my work has something to be with sustainable architecture. This is how the native people see the world. And this is how I see my house. This is the first project that I want to show you. It's a research of how can a 70 meters long brick wall without a pilaster, and also it's not just like an structural investigation. I also think that I was thinking maybe in Le Corbusier, in the Museum of Unlimited Growth. So there is water all around the house, and under the ramp you have the, well, it doesn't work, the ventilation to have. So this is another project for a poor neighborhood. It's a Cerrito Chapel, an Austro construction project for a community of concrete workers. It's a concrete tape reticulated, and a thin concrete tape reticulated. Structures like a Moebius tape. So these are the facades. And this is the Moebius tape that this tape reticulated structure is structured. This is the construction. And the most important thing is that all this building was built with concrete. The concrete form was done with garbage. That's why it's so irregular. There is no limit between exterior and interior, so there is no risk for stealing. This is another project, the Surubi House, and this is how I like to think in architecture. To me, it's always a matter of balance. And I think that sustainable architecture have to be something with balance. It's just a simple thought that how can a beam can work easily with a weight. These are the plans, and there is it's a researching of how to get a free space. So we put a weight in the extreme of that beams to have more to work the formation. That's why the walls doesn't touch the ground, because that beam needs weight. Probably, if that wall gets to the ground, that beam has to be post-tensed. And this is the interior. And also the furnitures were designed. This is another house. For reason of urban insecurity, we have to put the house in the up level. So I call this house sottoportico, like the Venetians typology, when you go down the house to pass through. So in this case, the entrance of the house, you have like in a tunnel that goes till the end until you get the swimming pool, and then you can have only one way to get into the house. This is the entrance, and then you have at the end the swimming pool. And it's also this is another project that is very important, how we think in balance. This is Octavio that made with me the project. So we were playing with 2 pieces of woods, and we noticed how was the best balance with the less elements that we can have for a sport infrastructure, for a golf range, to have the most free space for the players, and to have the most quantity of spaces. These are all the variation that work naturally with gravity. So we have economy, and if we have economy, also the structure have an energy, and all the variation have a calculation. And in this way, we could choose who or which is the best. These are the details, and these are the moment of the construction, and this is the cantilever of 5 meters long. Excuse me. Well, all of this family of project I call heavy architecture, is that like Vitruvio defined like a classical architecture. And the other family, most close to the sustainable architecture, is the light architecture. So this is a project that is in construction right now, that is, there are two incomplete porticos balanced by a tube beam. And we have, in the concrete structure, the heavy architecture, and is the first project that I put both architectures, the heavy one and the light one. So it have more flexibility for the future. This is the way that it works, the heavy architecture, and then hanged you have the light architecture. This is more than 50 meters free with the beam, the tube beam. And this is how, well, it isn't finished yet. So there is another project that we made for the Biennale, for the Venice Biennale, 2 years ago or 3 years ago right now. Then we were researching how a simple sheet, thin sheet of wood could be a structure with the help of water, thinking that in my country we have a lot of water, so water works like a machine. This is the prototype that we were searching, like a research, and this have to work like this. These are the weight proofs, and this is the construction of the pavilion. You can structure this sheet wood with drop by drop without a machine. I have this. There is no roof because we have a beautiful roof of a Venetian palace. This is another experience that we call that we were making with the palette. We were in a research to find something for emergency houses for Indians, for indigenous, excuse me, that were living in this. Living in Latin America is impossible to be indifferent to these social problems. So we took our project and to one plaza in downtown, and we built the houses with them. But that was not enough. We wanted to have this not only a research for emergency houses. We wanted to have a house, and these are proofs. So we got the umbraculo house, that it is a house with a vault of 18 meters long and 11 meters wide. And all the tiles that remains from it took these ones. We took to another place. And why cannot you make a wall with tiles? Wow. This is the hammock house. Done with material remains, a catenary net for a light roof. All done with a hand. These are the stones, the rocks to hold the roof. So, finally, we have one more project to run. The dark box. This is a pinhole box done for a filmmaker. Only a photographer or a filmmaker could live in his own work tool. So this is how we present the idea. And this is the project. All the landscape from the exterior is projected to the interior. This is the filmmaker. And this is how it's very difficult to have a photograph, but you can see the sky, the trees inside the house. So this is a video to finished. You can it's a video, a real time that how the box can be opened and closed. So, sustainable is not just a matter of how we use material. It's a matter of how we use resources, human resources. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Javier. That was an extraordinary presentation, and I think all of us, are enthralled by this wonderful architecture from the other side of the globe. Last but not the least, we have architect Shahrukh Mistry, and he's the last speaker for today, for this session. For 3 decades, Renu and Shahrukh and their team have practiced natural architecture, constantly innovating to include every known sustainable means to strive towards an ever lighter footprint. Known for his integrity and inspirational leadership, Shahrukh's tireless endeavors towards holistic architecture takes its inspiration from his keen observation of man's interaction with nature. Known for his talks, which he does a lot of, Shahrukh likes to take his audience on a journey of creative exploration. We are looking forward to that. Despite running a diverse practice ranging from tsunami and earthquake rehabilitation in India and now Nepal, SOS Children's Villages to giant exhibition centers and campuses engaged in rural education, the Mistry team's interaction with their clients, the earth on the site, the project managers, the contractors, the trees, and the laborers' children make it unmistakably clear that Shahrukh's architecture definitely has an heart. Please, sir. You.
Thank you, folks. It's great to be here again in the city of Jaipur, and I've enjoyed myself, and thank you for this opportunity. I am in a slot where I have done a fair amount of sustainable work in terms of the nuts and bolts of what we call green architecture. But today, I specifically want to kind of talk to you about happiness, sustainability, whatever you might call it, at the bottom of the pyramid. At the bottom of the pyramid, what I mean is when you have destitution, disaster, how do you kind of inculcate a sense of hope, a sense of joyfulness, and a sense of the future. Now, before I do that, I have to kind of show you something where my happiness quotient comes from. And so the first one is the original avatar of mysteries. But of course, then we metamorphosed into human beings. And then, of course, having fun, enjoying ourselves, I like to lead from the front. So I am going to talk to you about 4 projects. ARCASIA, which is an educational institution at the bottom of the pyramid talking about rural education. Then, of course, the tsunami. Then, of course, followed by our work in Nepal. And then the one closest to my heart, the SOS Children's Villages of India. We were to do a Robin Hood kind of a program, build a large university, take money from the rich returning Indians who want an exposure to Indian culture and things like that, and then transfer some of that money into rural education. In 1990, when we started this program, the bottom fell out of the IT industry and all the money dried up. So we said, all right, what do we do? The little money that the board and the organizers had, we said we want to ultimately do rural education. So where do we go and how do we kind of go about doing it? We didn't even have money at that point in time to do a board to show where we had this 172 acres of beautiful land. So we kind of painted a bus stop that was in existence. With no money, we needed divine intervention. So divine intervention got from the rocks of the Deccan with a little bit of waste steel, and we made a Ganesha out of it. And sure enough, we had divine intervention. We had divine intervention in the form of Dr. Abdul Kalam, who got excited with the idea of rural education. Somebody gave us a rattle trap of a van, and so we converted that into a water wheel and a mobile laboratory. Because folks, we in India were talking about rural education. If you do a fixed building in a land, how many children can you get there? But if you take education across to them through the mobile laboratories, there's a huge kind of a difference that we can make. So to tell you very frankly, we now have 150 mobile laboratories packed with science experiments, packed with experiments on biology, physics, environmental, art, and they are running all over the country. These are the first children of first learners, communities that have had no education to kind of talk of. But look at the power in her eyes. All she's telling you is, I don't want any pity, just give me an opportunity and I'll make you proud. So this is one part of the school where we are doing a auditorium and an art school, and this is our ex-president, Abdul Kalam, amazing individual in terms of his bandwidth of understanding, and his love for children is just beyond this. These are two spaces. The land kind of completely moves down several meters. At the Mysteries, we've always known that there is a story of every land. Are we, with our antennas open, willing to kind of communicate, willing to understand the life story? And some of these are millions of years old. So walking down this site, we saw, of course, the rivulets on the two sides. We started to kind of hold on to water because water is scarce in the Andhra region. And as you can see that the land falls down. Initially, we were wanting to kind of do a subterranean structure with an RCC roof, but the cost was much too prohibitive. As I said, we were fighting for a lot of this thing with money being very this thing. So what we decided to do was work with the lay of the land, step it down along, use the water that kind of came around from both the sides, and set this up. This is what we wanted to do. We wanted to see whether we could effortlessly slip this building into the earth to try and see whether we could be one with it. I don't know whether we've succeeded entirely, but that was our attempt. And this is what the inside of the auditorium is. It's a multi-purpose space. The back of the stage opens out towards a beautiful landscape at the back, and we even get all our supplies and things like that, which are very heavy sometimes, to come in, and it gets used in a multi-use way. This is at the upper end of the site, which is the art school. And here again, I think the opportunity to break disciplines was very, very critical to us. So we did not set out to just do science or issues related to that, even though it was a lot of hands-on learning that we wanted children to get, but we wanted to expose them to the land and the art and issues that came from the land. So we had a lot of shale rock, we had a lot of local Deccan stone in this area, which set the entire program out. So these are the kind of spaces. The museum in Venkateshwara Museum, the government museum, got interested in our program, and we set with them a program which is called Tod for Jod. So initially they would break things down, then dismember it further, and then come back and set it up again. So these were the kind of people and the youngsters who came from the villages in and around. And we had great joy seeing them operate out of these spaces. So as we said, the connections to the outdoor from any of these internal spaces was very, very critical. So look at this. They picked up little pieces of what they found in the junkyard. But they completed their story. They completed their narrative with what was available from the land and in and around. Large spaces, multi-use spaces. This is what the place looks like in the evening in the surrounding landscape of stones. 26th December 2004, my birthday. The tsunami strikes the east coast of India. I am convalescing from a cancer surgery, and the time and the thing that gets into my mind when you have things like that, why me? And then the tsunami strikes, we are all safe. So I ask myself, why not me? And then I go and work with the SOS Children's Villages for the next several years while I wait for why me or not me of life's unending questions. So we decided to make this program participatory. And we decided to listen, because very seldom do, no, I shouldn't say very seldom, that as architects we need to listen to a lot. We need to listen not only to our clients, we need to listen to the language of the land, and we need to listen to desperation, because we were out of our comfort zone when we went there. City-bred architects, not knowing how to interact. My language was different. So Pudupetai, the places where I was going to, I found it quite difficult to even communicate. But we decided to have an interpreter and have people who would translate their stories of hope, of what their future needed to have. So we decided to do some preliminary designs and things like that. Got Princess Aga Khan, Papaji, Lieutenant General Lakhera from Puducherry, and of course, we said, are we romantic? Are we practical? Can we leave our baggage behind? We went in with a romantic response to saying that, all right, you use local materials, these are the things that are available to you, so that's how we would do. The people who were gathered around, they clapped and they said in no uncertain terms, Venda sir, concrete venom. That's Tamil for you. He says, no sir, thank you. Can you give us an RCC slab? So we asked why. They said, you know what? You will build this, you will go away, but we are growing families. We will need to build later. Who will allow us to kind of do that? In my naive response, I agreed to that, and I had hell to pay with my donor agencies. But only when the donor agencies saw that we were adding value, that they agreed for us to do that. So we had negotiations, we talked about everything, materials, and this is the kind of response. the Murangakai tree, the bananas, slowly but surely life kind of comes back into this thing. And they told me very clearly, you know what, you can do a thatch roof, but let me tell you, we'll do a better thatch roof than you can ever do that, because we understand the materials that we have been living with for generations. And look at this guy. I've had tea with him during the day, and booze and local arak upstairs in the evening. He's used the local posters to be able to shield the western sunlight. And of course, we had become crooks by that time. We finished 600 homes. The government of Tamil Nadu was to give us power. The government of Tamil Nadu was to give us water and electricity. Nothing came in. SOS, with the strength of its connections, decided to call Roger Federer to inaugurate the program. And before we could say Jack Robbins or whatever, the government of Tamil Nadu gave us everything in the last 1 month. So everybody was happy. The villagers gained. Roger Federer decided to play cricket with the kids. But it was amazing. Amazing individual, amazing sense of humility. This is his girlfriend before he got married, and his mother at the back. This young man's name is Himal. And Himal, sitting under that tree or in the tin shed when we first went there, and when I saw him, he became the inspiration for everything that we've done in Nepal till now. So in Nepal, we're doing a couple of schools and 300 homes. And I'll take you very, very quickly with that. Look at the hope. Look at what one kind of wants to achieve in life. And I'm hoping every time I go to him in the Bhimtar village that he lives in, I take him something or the other for him to keep sketching, drawing. Maybe at some time he will live the aspirations of an architect. So we all put our hands together to see what we can do. Lal Bahadur Samang, the village headman, along with the entire community, decides to join us, and we want to kind of build for them. So the simple questions of what we bring to the table as architects. Are we listening to what we need to do? Are we conscious? Can we leave our baggage behind? Are we kind of doing something for them to be able to kind of hope and do that? So we decided to do simple things. Hands of the teacher, the students, the principal, lighten up the prayer wheels. This is a prayer wheel in my office, and I love to hug it because everybody who's come through my office has their name on it over the years. And some simple understanding of issues and things like that on a very beautiful site where the entire structure had collapsed. So, yes, quickly, this is what we are doing. We use the rat trap bond and develop local leaves that were impregnated, spaces where could be multi-use spaces. And this is the response on that.
Asia, at this particular point of time, especially in South Asia, while there is a lot of development, there is still a very large number of people who are living below the poverty line. One of the biggest challenges organizations like us face is how do you take care of children who are either being abandoned or in the danger of being abandoned, so that they can overcome the trauma quickly. Otherwise, the damage which will be done to these kids is irreparable.
The whole idea was to create an ambience of a home where the family grows up together, lives together.
And they grow up like any normal family children.
These mothers, they are taking care of 6 to 10 kids. And not just taking care of them in the way that you would imagine someone who worked in an orphanage would, but they actually become their mothers. And I can't imagine anything more open-hearted and generous.
We can hope that Aliberg succeeds to help these kids to do their examination in school, find a very good job, and become independent from any other support in the future. I think it's very good for Esprit to do this, because you cannot just take from the society and make money, but you should also give to the society, and I think this is our mission.
Children are hopefully going to grow up to be adults that are able to raise children of their own in a way that isn't like the experience that they went through, early on. Everyone involved seems to really believe in what they're doing. There's a real sense that this is different, and the way that everyone participates is kind of ideal.
So this is the site. It's one of the smallest sites that we have had, having done more than 15 SOS villages all over the country. And this was fashioned around the Marathwada home with a small courtyard, which allowed for that expression of a larger space. The final thought I'd like to leave you with is that as architects, or I as an architect, have done empty spaces. But it's when the children and the mothers that have moved into these homes, that is when the life starts to kind of pulsate. So I'll take you through these homes, the courtyard, the local artists from the Warli tribes in and around Maharashtra would do that. Children getting ready to go to school. And of course, we were doing a children's village. The first village that I did, I gave them pipes to jump out. The second village I dropped the walls for them to kind of jump out. The mothers and the family people thought we were nuts. Haven't we all peeped when we were young? So I wanted to give them a peeping hole. Of course, I made sure that it was not in their bedrooms, but it was in their living room and things like that. And finally, we connect with them. And these are gems that nobody teaches you in the School of Architecture. Look at the caring and sharing. When you see one edge of this thing, and this is a hot afternoon on the site. My last slide, I was building my first SOS village 27, 28 years ago, and a little laborer boy comes and runs over the wet concrete, and he gets picked up, gets whacked on his backside, and they were getting ready to kind of pour the next concrete and close it up. I happened to be there at the site, folks, and I felt that I could have not got any better response than from that little kid. Whatever connection that must have been, that he runs across and leaves his footprints for me to enjoy. Every couple of years, I go there to paint these set of steps. Thank you.
What an extraordinary session we've had. Unfortunately, we're running really late, and I'd like to invite Tan to just probably sum up what we have just discussed, and then we'll facilitate the speakers. We are running late by about half an hour, so I think we'll skip I'm sure, you've really enthralled the audience. We have a packed house. People are standing at the back, but I don't think we have time for the panel discussion. So I invite San to just sum up what we have done. Thank you. Yeah, please have a mic.
All right. Well, wow. I mean, personally, I'm extremely humbled to even be sitting here with the range of speakers that we've had today. And I think the title for today's topic, Sustainable Architecture and Examples of which do not do enough justice to the amazing work that Darmali, Javier, and of course Shahrukh have actually presented. Now, would you agree with me on that? I feel personally the title shouldn't just be sustainable architecture. It should really be what it means to be human and to be designing architecture at the same time. And these are examples of what the architects who've shared with us have shown today. I think my approach originally was a lot more sort of technological in nature. And I think a lot of what we presented comes from the backgrounds, and very clearly so today, from the various countries and even different continents in which we operate. And I think there's so much cultural value and so much, well, I would say social value in what we're actually engineering and what we're actually architecting for. Personally, I am very humbled by today. I don't know how to show. I'm out of words, to be honest, for the first time. I think Darmali has shown how even commercial architecture that is for a hotel chain, that is for a luxury boutique hotel chain, can be so ingrained into existing vernacular, into existing sort of cultural archetypes. I think, Javier, you've shown, even through your projects, you did not stress so much on the necessity of the amazing structural engineering that comes about both from the design and the construction. But I think the videos, the images and so on really showed how architecture and engineering can really coexist and ultimately really serve its people. And of course, Shahrukh, it really, really speaks for itself. The kind of work that you're doing for the SOS group, the kind of work that you're doing for the context in which you've committed yourself to, I think it's given me hope again that architecture as a profession will continue to live on forever. Are you sure we don't have time for a quick conversation? I'm sure the audience would have one or two questions to ask.
It's open, it's your choice.
Can we do that? A very quick one. I don't want to deny the attendees today of a good conversation amongst the speakers today. I don't think you're going to get, accepting me, of course, I don't think you're going to get a group of speakers like that in the same panel. So can we do a very quick one and maybe 2 or 3 questions from the floor? How about that? Yeah? Lunch can wait. Lunch is there every day, right? These guys are not. He will go back to Paraguay. He will go back to Singapore or Indonesia. And he will go back to Bangalore. Can we get some quick chairs up? If that's okay, I can bring the mic along. Do you guys have any questions? Yes, I'll come to you.
When can we have another opportunity to listen all of you at length?
What are you doing tonight? Well, I can't say for the rest of them, but yeah. No, but I think maybe just after this, after lunch and so on, we'll be happy to sit down and share a bit more. I do find that a lot of us have had to rush through a little bit, 20 minutes. Well, to architects, 20 minutes is half an hour, but even that half an hour is not enough time, I think, for the amazing work that these guys have shown. Maybe in the afternoon, I guess. Yeah, we'll be in touch, and yeah, of course, I won't hold them back from visiting Jaipur, but any other comments or questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, this question is to Mr. Darmali Kusmali. So I really appreciate the work because you are working with a resort sector, which is a very high-end luxurious thing. But in spite of all that, you are able to bring in the ideas, the sustainable ideas. I mean, that is something great, actually speaking, because it is a teamwork. The clients have to agree with. How do you convince? My question is, how do you convince your clients to bring that kind of ideas? Because it is, at the end of the day, it has to bring in money. It has to, how do you really convince that part? Thank you.
All right, hold that question for thought. How do you convince your clients to bring in that sort of value into something that's ultimately or essentially commercial? Is that your question? Yeah, hold that thought. We're going to invite all the speakers today to sit up on stage for the very quick panel discussion, and we'll answer that question. So over to you, Darmali.
Precisely, that's the key. As long we bring the money, we meet the one of the triple bottom line. That is one of the goal achieved. But the key is that I'm fortunate enough to work for one hotel company, and it's not that we do not have standard. We have the kind of standard, but we always try to think to give the guests great experience. Must be different, and it doesn't really matter because it's not always that luxury resort must be in the post design. You must have a marble. It's not. The last case study I show you, that is award-winning of design competition for hotel in Hong Kong and in New York and everything, and big all the 5-star hotel, and especially the one in Hong Kong, because you only allowed to enter when you have operated for 2 years. So it's not concept. So you must be meet all that. You're great operationally, you're great from the finance and so on. So success as a product. So that's the key. I think the key is more in how is to bring the idea. Now even we are exploring a project in Peru and Chile. I'm start thinking about Javier. How can we using his design, but still responsible to the guest, because the insurance will chase me if he designed a hotel without a railing. You know, it's how to justify the up and down. So it's many ways. But as a hotel company, as long as you give a great hotel experience, it's okay. You know, but you need to meet with the service and everything. That's the key.